ready to make to come to the microphone, so we'll listen in. Okay. To the microphone. Microphone, listen in.
Okay. So my name's Robbie Parker. My family is one of the families that lost a child yesterday in the Sandy Hook Elementary School shootings here in Connecticut.
We are going to have to take meaningful action. We have endured too many of these tragedies.
Newtown. It doesn't even seem real. It just does not seem like it's even possible. It's
that something has to be done. When is it going to get so bad that lawmakers, people in Washington will address what's happened?
They did walk a guy out of the woods. I saw him walk a guy out earlier with handcuffs. He walked by us and said he didn't do it.
It was a grown man.
A grown man, yeah. He's sitting in the front of the police car over there now. So, I mean...
He didn't have a gun?
No, I didn't see any gun. Just had him handcuffed, and he walked by us and looked into parents' eyes and said, I didn't do it.
How was he dressed?
Camo pants with a dark jacket. Camo pants with a dark jacket.
They're up all on the second floor, and I didn't get there today.
Sir.
And it's... My sensibilities may not be the average man. Firearms than most pathologists, but if I say it in court, they yell at me and don't make me answer, so I'll let the police deal with that injuries.
But you said it was the long rifle that was used?
Yes.
I thought the long rifle was discovered in the car. So it's not correct?
Not correct, sir.
To follow up on that question.
I don't know. There were lots of them. Okay. If you can control the situation depending on your photographer, and I have very good photographers, no, I don't.
How young?
Sorry, I don't.
How young was the youngest victim?
I don't.
How young?
Sorry, I don't.
How young was?
Y'all gonna have to look at the spreadsheet when we pass it out. I'm sorry.
Did the gunman kill himself with the rifle?
No. I don't know yet. I'll examine him tomorrow morning.
Precision from the shooter, or was it spread sort of randomly?
Both. It's a very difficult question to answer. Okay. You'd think after the thousands of people I've seen shot, I could answer that question, but if I attempted to answer it in court, there'd be an objection and they'd win.
When they came to you, what were they wearing?
They're wearing cute kid stuff.
Doctor, the children that you autopsied, where on the body were those wounds?
All over.
How many boys and how many girls?
I have no idea. It's H. Wayne, W-A-Y-N-E. Carver, C-A-R-V-E-R. And it's the second. And that's why I don't use the H, because when my father asked my grandfather, he said, fine, but as long as you never call him Harold. It wasn't a tent. It was this magnificent thing. We have 3 vehicles and a lot of guys that drive them. Actually, one of the highlights of my administration is that we make them as nondescript and unmarked as possible. Just to foil you guys.
Located, that means you don't have evidence? You don't know? You're checking it.
They're up all on the second floor, and I didn't get there today. Sorry, I don't.
How young was he?
Both. As long as you never call him Harold.
What were they wearing?
They're wearing cute kid stuff. It wasn't a tent. It was this magnificent thing. Sorry, I don't.
How young was he?
Yes, sir. One question.
Does the mother of the shooter have any connection to the school?
Yes, sir. One question.
Does the mother of the shooter have any connection to the school?
Now, you have to understand that after the shooting, that we did a complete and thorough search of the entire area, the neighborhood, with our local partners. Everything was examined. If we found anyone that was in the woods cutting wood, they would be detained pending the investigation. So there were no other arrests that were associated with this investigation that occurred. Okay?
So what about the mindset?
Yes, sir. One question.
Does the mother of the shooter have any connection to the school?
Police State News.
One thing that's becoming somewhat of a concern, and that is misinformation that's being posted on social media sites. It is important to know that we have discussed with federal authorities that these issues are crimes. They will be investigated statewide and federally, and prosecution will take place when people perpetrating this information are identified. So any of that information and people that are putting that information up there in any manner, all right, that can be construed as a violation of state or federal law, will be prosecuted, will be investigated and prosecuted.
It's a very serious problem. It's a very complicated problem, but perhaps this will be the day that, starting with the president, Washington finally got serious about trying to do something about this.
Mass shootings, victims, children, inexplicable horror, suggesting to the country that he is prepared to take action and perhaps political risks he hasn't before to confront and change the underlying dynamics that brought this tragedy and this grimly historic day to the briefing room and the rest of the country.
He was also, Jay Carney specifically asked about whether assault weapons ban, whether that remains a commitment of the president, and the answer was yes, it does remain. It does remain a commitment of his.
Camo pants with a dark jacket.
Two shooters were initially believed involved in the mass shooting. One of those shooters now dead. What's not been confirmed is whether or not that gunman took his own life or whether or not there was something that ensued after authorities began arriving at the scene. And now the big question will be, is there in fact that second shooter, and where is that second shooter?
There were reports, you touched on it earlier, Trace touched on it earlier, of a possible accomplice, and there was some tape of police. Let's look at the pictures. There were reports of a second person, perhaps an accomplice, and then we didn't hear much more about that. First we'd heard that they had been pushed off of that, and now we're getting more reports, unconfirmed as of this hour, Rick, but we're getting more reports now from other sources that a second person may be in custody. Have the police said anything about whether they believe that piece of the investigation is still open?
Well, what we had heard was that there was a potential second suspect. You know, oftentimes after these major incidents, you'll have a lot of reports, and many of them turn out to be false. A lot of times there's confusion in the midst of things, and someone may be running from the scene who may be escaping with their life, and people might think that that person is running because they're fleeing the scene because they're somehow involved. We don't know. We're waiting for police to arrive here at this park to brief us and give us more information on the shooting itself. We've been told that there is no active investigation, no active search for a second shooter. That could mean that they have already captured a second person if someone was involved, but we haven't been able to confirm that yet, Megan.
But whether there is still an active search underway for a second gunman, that's the question, and that may have something to do with that helicopter aerial shot of the woods.
This is something we're going to have to do. We're going to have to take some action. This has happened too many times. We'll see in the days ahead what that amounts to. But, you know, people don't talk about trying to get these guns out of the hands of these emotionally disturbed people. And, you know, when people talk about guns
going forward, some of the early reports suggested there might be multiple gunmen. Have you seen anything to verify that, or are we just talking about one shooter here who is dead?
I've heard that same report. I don't have any information that would either confirm it, you know, or dispel that report.
He was also, Jay Carney specifically asked about whether assault weapons ban, whether that remains a commitment of the president. The answer was yes, it does remain a commitment of his.
We have our temple service every Sunday. Starts around 10:30, and usually goes in the afternoon. And around 10, between 10 and 10:30, for white males who were dressed darkly, dressed in all black clothing, came in and opened fire on our congregation. And from what I'm told, about 20 to 25 people have been hit. And my uncle was one of them. He's been taken to the hospital.
Some of the eyewitnesses tend to have wrong information.
Law-abiding citizens to surrender their firearms in a nationwide roundup and meltdown of all semi-automatic firearms and pump-action rifles and shotguns. 640,000 ordinary conventional firearms confiscated and destroyed. The anti-gun forces can no longer escape. Armed robberies have skyrocketed, up 69%. Assaults involving guns rose 28%. Gun murders increased 19%. And a new phenomenon, home invasions jumped 21%. An increase politicians insist they can't explain because they're still trying to legally define what a home invasion is.
Mexico has strict gun control. You cannot own a gun in Mexico. And they had 20,000 people dead last year in the drug cartel war. Because I was in the Philippines, physically, the day Ferdinand Marcos declared martial law and made himself a dictator. And the first thing that dictator did, he gave the people of the Philippines 2 weeks to turn in all their guns or it was the death penalty. Now, why would a dictator do that? Why would he make his #1 priority when he took over as dictator to disarm the public? The Second Amendment is there, and it was put in there not for hunting and fishing like they like to say, because back when they did it, if you didn't hunt or fish, you didn't eat. It was put in there so the citizens would have the ability, if their government became oppressive, they could defend themselves against oppressive government. All right, how many people here die because of car accidents of drunk driving? Do we go to the Ford Motor Company and tell them stop making these automobiles because people get drunk and kill people in cars?
It's a facile argument.
It's a what?
It's a facile argument. There's no equivalence between drunk driving and lethal firearms. My point is...
Wait a minute. A car is a 2,000-pound projectile that can go 100 miles an hour.
I have no problem with an American believing that their right under the Constitution is that they can defend themselves, especially in their own home, if they're being attacked and they have a weapon.
It's also against government.
I have a big... Anyway, let's take a break.
What roll of the dice would you like? You'd prefer to be unarmed? How many people here think I make crackpot points?
Yeah?
1. How many think I make sensible points? You're in a minority, my good friend. You're the minority.
I said you made some sensible points. Let's go to another audience question from Jared.